Welcome to my backyard garden. Today I'm going to take you on a tour of the garden and show you what's going on the beginning of June. So one thing I'm going to take advantage of this year, I'm just not going to grow as much stuff. In the past I've grown stuff all season long in these beds and I've produced a lot of food, up to 500 pounds of food a year. And I'm not going to do that this year because I'm just too busy with other things. However, I'm going to take advantage of the empty space. So in this near bed, for instance, I'm going to work my way across this bed throughout the season, planting more turnips and more lettuce, and working this way doing some succession planting. I'm also going to use the bed over there with the peas to grow another crop of something, probably the turnips. Over in that bed right there is where my peppers are going to go. And they aren't ready to put out yet. Probably in another couple of weeks I'll put them out and then put the rack up. I'll show you that later. And then I've got my kale over there, which has also gone to seed. I'm going to have to pull some of that out, but I'm going to let that grow as much as I can to use that in my salads. So I've been getting my warm weather crops out. I normally would start my squash and cucumber and pumpkin indoors, but I got a late start this year. I was busy, couldn't do that, so I just direct planted everything in this bed about 3 weeks ago. So I have long neck pumpkin, I've got some acorn squash and cantaloupe, and then I've got some cucumbers over here. So I'm going to let them grow. Normally I've planted anywhere from 20 to 40 plants and done a lot of canning. This year I decided not to. So I've got two big beef and a cherry and a pear tomato. I just put them in the ground today, and of course I've got my rack here. This rack is only 5 feet tall because in my area, with the season I have, they'll grow to about 5 feet tall. I cut them off when they get about a couple inches above the horizontal support here, and that's all I'm going to get as far as my tomatoes producing by the end of my growing season. Check this out. Look at that turnip. These are better than store-bought. If you want to look at this one, there's a big one. Look at the size of that. That's great. That's easily 3 inches across. But these turnips are about ready to pick. Some of them, I'll pick them as I go. Now, what I did here is I planted more, but they're getting shaded out by the established plants. So I don't know how much I'm going to get. I got one row going along this edge of the bed. That'll be enough for a while. What I'm going to end up doing is planting more over there. I want to show you my fence. I use this fence every year and how I have it set up. This is 28-inch rabbit fencing. And what I do is I just wrap it around the entire garden, and I use this 3/8-inch rebar inside some 1/2-inch PVC, and that holds it in place, and I use that rebar to hold my fence up as it goes around my garden. There's another rebar there, one here, and here I've run it through so it's inside, run through the fencing, and that goes all the way down around the other end next to the air conditioning. But I have to use this because I've got rabbits. Rabbits will get in my garden and eat everything. A couple years ago, I tried that nylon fencing, small animal fencing, kind of like what I have up with my peas. But the rabbits would just tear their way through it and get into my garden. So I never use that again. I would always recommend using this wire fencing. Now my lettuce in that bed isn't going to last much longer in this heat, and it's going to start bolting, so I'm going to get as much as I can out of that, picked out of that. In this bed, I have my next batch of lettuce and radishes. Now I just transplanted these. I moved these radishes around. I thinned them out and moved them around so they're a little wilted. They'll be okay. They'll be recovered by tomorrow. I'll end up thinning this lettuce, and that'll be my next batch. I'll be eating that lettuce probably in about 3 to 4 weeks. These are my sugar peas. They won't produce probably for about another month or so, but by the time they get done, they're going to be 1 foot to 2 feet above this rack and still producing. They produce really nice peas, and I have to gauge how much to plant because in the past I've put 2 rows an inch apart all the way down on both sides, so I get 4 rows an inch apart with the seeds, and it's way too much for 2 people to eat. So last year I did 2 rows, this year I've just done 1. So this should be enough peas that I'm not going to overwhelm myself. I won't be able to eat everything we grow. All right, so that's my garden beginning of June. Hope that was helpful. If you got any ideas, great. If you can like the video, give it a like. Share it with your friends. Subscribe to my channel if you would. Go ahead and leave your comments and questions below. And ring that bell to get notified of my future videos. I'll be back soon with more stuff. Bye-bye.